Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with, this is really cool, Warner's complete Berlioz edition. This is really exciting because, there's never been a complete Berlioz edition on disc. There's never been anything close to a complete Berlioz edition on disc. And you'd think, he didn't write all that much. What he wrote was like huge, but limited in number. But there's a lot more here than you think. This is 27 CDs worth of stuff, most of it on Warner, some of it licensed from elsewhere. The things that you don't know about are largely restricted to, vocal pieces of various kinds, songs, choruses, occasional works, but some of them are very interesting. And this really does seem to be pretty much complete. The only thing it doesn't have, and it sort of does have it, is one of my favorite weird little Berlioz pieces, which is Tristia. Now, Tristia consists of 3 separate numbers that he later stuck together and called Tristia. And what you get are the 3 separate numbers, but you don't get them together. And one of them, the death of Ophelia, he orchestrated for Tristia. And here you have it in the piano version. But so technically, everything Berlioz wrote is here, but not necessarily in every form that he wrote it. But then there's like some extra stuff that he didn't write. Well, sort of. You'll see what I mean as we get to it. Because there's some orchestrations by other people, and you know how these things happen. Let's just go through it, all 27 fun-filled CDs, and see what's on here, because there's really a lot, and a lot of it's really, really good. There were some very smart decisions made here. The one thing I don't understand happens on disc 1. This is a disc of overtures, and things do not begin well. I have to say, you get Les Francs Juges with Roger Norrington and the London Classical Players. That is gag-worthy. And then 3 overtures, Waverley, King Lear, and Rob Roy with the London Phil under Adrian Boult. What? Adrian Boult? That noted Berliozian? Oh my God. If there is any person who should not be playing Berlioz, it is that stiff upper lip conductor, Adrian Boult. Well, he wasn't always a stiff upper lip, but it just wasn't his fa. Who are we kidding? They're not terrible, but they're just, and they're old. Oh boy, mediocrely recorded. Okay, so you get the Roman Carnival with Maris Janssens and the Concertgebouw. That's fine. The Corsair with Andre Previn and the London Symphony. Why on earth would you take Andre Previn and the London Symphony when you have possibly the best ever Corsair in the history of the universe with Thomas Beecham, for heaven's sake? Beecham, remember him? Beecham. Beecham, great Berlioz conductor. He did a stereo Corsair. It's fabulous. And then you get the Trojan March with Louis Fremeau and the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra. That's very good. Fremeau is very good. Okay, so disc 1 is sort of a letdown. But don't let that get you. There is better to come, I assure you. For example, the Symphonie Fantastique and Lelio with Martinon. Those are great. Those are just great. They're absolutely terrific. So nothing to complain about there. Harold in Italy with the Orchestre Nationale de France and Donald McInnes and Leonard Bernstein. Bernstein was a dynamite Harold in Italian guy. And it's a great Harold in Italy. So that's great. Romeo and Juliet. You get the Riccardo Muti with Philadelphia with Jesse Norman, John Aller, and Simon Estes. That's a pretty hot Romeo and Juliet. It's pretty exciting. Wonderfully played and sharp and rhythmic and boom, It's as Romeo and Juliet-y as you're ever going to hear. Then you get the Grande Symphonie Funèbre et Triomphale in the choral version with the Musique des Gardiens de la Paix under Désiré Donden. That was licensed from Calliope or one of those labels, or he did it twice. Maybe once it was for Astray or Naive. I don't know. One was the choral version, one wasn't. And this is the choral version, and it's all wonderfully screechy and French sounding. So that's fine. Then you get the Reverie et Caprice with Renaud Capuçon and the Deutsche Kammerphilharmonie Bremen under Daniel Harding, who I really have a hard time with. I find him mostly cold as ice as an interpreter, but as an accompanist in the Reverie et Caprice, who cares? All right. Then we have instrumental works. This is a strange little collection. There are 2 organ pieces, a fugue from 1922. Berlioz hated counterpoint, and he hated writing fugues. The fugues that Berlioz does write, the fugues he did write, were all parodies, or something. There's like the opening of Romeo and Juliet, which is a fight. And then there's the finale of the Symphonie Fantastique, that fugato, with the Witches' Sabbath. And then there's the fake fugue, the Amen in the Damnation of Faust. Berlioz had a real problem with his counterpoint lessons. So then there's a fugue on 3 subjects from 1829 for organ. You think that's going to sound like Berlioz? Yeah. Not really. And then you have the Trois Morceaux pour l'Orgue Mélodium d'Alexandre. That's a harmonium, an early harmonium from 1844, one of which is called, get this, the Sérénade agreste à la Madone sur le thème des Pifari romaines. It's only 3 minutes long. The title is longer than the work. And it's like a little organ, squeeze boxy harmonium thing. Very, very strange. All right. Then you get vocal and choral works. And this is where you get some really cool stuff that you probably wouldn't know. I'm not going to go over like all the billions and billions of little songs and things he wrote, because he wrote a lot of them. There's this Nocturne for 2 voices for soprano, mezzo-soprano, and guitar. Berlioz actually was a guitarist. A lot of people don't know that, because everyone's like, he's a composer. What was his instrument? And everyone says, his instrument was the orchestra, because he was like, one of the greatest orchestrators that ever lived. Actually, the only thing that he really played was the guitar. It's very, very interesting. He did not write much music for guitar, so if you want to hear him write for guitar, the Nocturne for 2 voices and guitar, is your chance. Then you get a bunch of songs, and they're all very well done. You've got Felicity Lott and Anne-Sophie van Otter and Anne Murray and Françoise Paulette and John Aller and, all the Berlioz people. And they do it very well. Now, this is really cool. The scène héroïque, la révolution grecque, the Greek revolt. It's really rather cool. It's a 4-movement sort of cantata thing. It's pretty substantial. It lasts like 20 minutes. And for, chorus and soloists and orchestra, it's marvelous. I have the score back up there. It's really a good piece. And then you get, of course, his Prix de Rome cantatas. There's Herménie with Janet Baker and Colin Davis. It's fabulous. It doesn't get better than that. And you get La Mort d'Orphée, the Death of Orpheus, with Rolando Villazon and Plassans, which is absolutely fantastic. And then you have Cléopâtre with Véronique Jean and Louis Langret with the Opera de Lyon. Very, very good. And the 8 scenes from Faust, which was the predecessor of the Damnation of Faust. You get them separately. And here with that Yatou Casado recording with Radio France that was on Erato. Remember that? Sato, I suppose I should say it correctly. If that's correctly, I don't know. And let's see, what else do we get? The Ballet of the Shadows. Ooh, Sardanapale, which is like this orchestral thing that no one's ever heard of. It's one of those fragments for tenor and orchestra and chorus. And, Berlioz wrote these. He dropped these little, breadcrumbs along the way. And some of them are just lots of fun. Then there's the song cycle, 9 songs for Irlande. Nobody knows that. So that's nice to have. It's actually not really a song cycle because each song is for different forces. You get voice and piano, 2 voices and piano, tenor, bass, male chorus and piano. And then there's a last one. It's not number 9, but there's another setting of the same thing, I think, the Chant Sacré for tenor, mixed chorus and piano, which he orchestrated. So you get to hear that twice. And then, of course, here's the Méditation religieuse that later became part of Tristia. and La Captive. And let's see. Oh, just lots and lots of vocal stuff. My goodness. What else is fun here? Oh, Sarah La Beigneuse for mixed chorus and orchestra. That's one of those little gems. You know, nobody knows them, and they're really nice to have. And you get two versions of Les Nuits d'été. You get the Gardner's recording for the original voices, the original vocal parts, with Catherine Robin, Diane Montague, Howard Crook, and Gilles Cachamay. That's very nice to have. And then you get the whole thing with Janet Baker and Barbaroli, which is, of course, one of the great ones. So that's nice to have. Then there's another sort of cantata thing, Le Cinq Mai, which was a funeral ode on the death of Emperor Napoleon for brass, mixed chorus, and orchestra. Oh, bass. Sorry, I wish it were brass. Bass, mixed chorus, and orchestra. And then we have the Damnation of Faust. Now, this is going to be a problem because, you know, there are sort of three, and they're of varying degrees of quality. This is the Kent Nagano recording, and really they picked the best one. That was the smart one to pick, in my view. There's a Prêtre one, which is, you know, and there's, I think actually, and there was, oh no, that's on Phillips, was the Gardner, right? So this is the one that they should have picked. So you've got Thomas Moser as Faust, Susan Graham as Marguerite, Joseph Van Damme as Mephistopheles, and Frédéric Caton as Brander. It's a very good performance. It really is. And I'm happy to see it return because it's been out of print for a very long time. Then here's The Death of Ophelia. That is in the piano and voice version. And let's see, what else do we get? But you do get the funeral march for the last scene of Hamlet, which is the last of Tristia, with Louis Frémaux. And, oh, this one's really fun. The Song of the Railways, the Chant des Chemins de Fer, with Rolando Villazon and Michel Plasson. I mean, again, it's another one of those little gems that people don't really know because we only listen to big, loud, long Berlioz most of the time. So there we have all kinds of other stuff here. Now, sacred music. They have licensed Gardner's recording of the Messe Solennelle, which is perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned. There's only one. We only need one. I mean, you know, it's an interesting piece that Berlioz rated later for everything that he wrote subsequently. And so it's nice to have that. Let's see here. Oh, the Requiem. Again, a smart choice. They could have taken Previns, which is kind of, I don't know, indifferently recorded and a little dull. So they used Louis Frémaux, which is surprisingly good. It's in the Frémaux box. And you know, you listen to it and it's like, wow, these guys really got it together and did a very, very good Requiem. The Te Deum is John Nelson's. It's the best version of the Te Deum out there, hands down. L'Enfance du Christ. Here's a problem. L'Enfance du Christ, they use Gardner. Now, it's not bad. It can't be bad. It's actually very good. It's a very beautiful performance. But they should have used the last Cluyton. You know, the Cluytens guy, whose name I can't pronounce. They should have used that performance. That is one of the classic, fabulous L'Enfance du Christ. It was like Cluyton's last recording, you know, or one of his last recordings. And it was the Paris Conservatory Orchestra. I mean, you know, they should have used that one. Let's see, the hymn for the consecration of the new tabernacle. Okay. I mean, there's weird stuff. Okay, then we get the operas. Let's just do the operas. This is really easy because they're all the same. It's not all the same operas, but they're all the recordings under John Nelson, and they are all fabulous. First of all, Benvenuto Cellini. As you may know, Benvenuto Cellini had this tortured history. And because of that, there's the original version that Berlioz wrote. Then there's the version that they actually produced after it got cut and censored. Then there's the Weimar version he did for Liszt. And then there's an even earlier sort of version that was supposed to be an opera comique with dialogue. And, you know, Colin Davis tried to sort of restore elements of that, which I don't think was very successful. In short, this is the only Benvenuto Cellini that there is. That is the original Benvenuto Cellini that Berlioz wrote. And here I think, you know, I'm not, like I said, you know, you've heard in these other videos, you know, going back to first thoughts after composers make revisions and things, you know, you have to take these things on a case-by-case basis. And in the case of Berlioz, he was tormented over this piece. And he only wanted to hear it, and he had to do all kinds of things to get it performed. It's worthwhile going back to his original version and just leaving it at that. And this is the only recording of it, and it's fabulous. So what the heck? Then Nelson also did Beatrice and Benedict, which is first class, and he did Les Troyens, which is one of the great, great ones. It's actually interesting, how many really good recordings there are of Les Troyens. There really aren't any bad ones. Even Dutois is very good, But, Davis did it twice. They're both fantastic. And this one with John Nelson is fabulous. Absolutely first class in every respect. And it's an amazing work. It really is. I remember when Tovey first talked about it, he said, wait, stop. He talked about how kooky Berlioz is and how insane he was. And then he said, but wait, when we finally got to hear Les Troyens, we found it to be one of the greatest masterpieces of music drama on the level of Wagner. And he's right. It is. It's absolutely wonderful. And this is a wonderful performance of it. Okay, then we have a bunch of arrangements. The arrangements, of course, you've got the Marseillaise, you've got the Chant de Neuf Thermidor, the song of the Ninth of Thermidor, which is not a kitchen appliance. It was a month that Napoleon came up with. And we've got, Weber's Invitation to the Dance. That's with Andre Cluytens, which is wonderful. And you've got like his Erlkönig by Schubert, which is wonderful. And Plaisir d'amour. Ooh! That's with Charles Dutois, actually. And let's see. Then on disc 27, this is the last disc, isn't it? A bunch of early historical recordings. You get the Damnation of Faust, Mephistopheles 2 arias with piano, sung by Maurice Renaud, and then 2 little tiny excerpts from Les Troyens by Didot. Let's see, you get the soloists are Marie Delna and Felia Litvin. Household names, both of them, obviously, yes. And then in the Symphonie Fantastique, you get the world's earliest recording of the Symphonie Fantastique complete from 1924 in scratchy but okay preserved acoustic, it's whatever you think. It's the orchestra of the Pas de Loup concerts under René Battant. So that's quite something. It sounds very historical. I know it's important because it's historical, but honestly, if you want to listen to the Symphonie Fantastique in an acoustic recording for anything other than Tempi, you're sort of out of your mind because that's about all you're going to hear. That's okay. It's nice to have. So there you have it. 27 CDs, the complete Berlioz. And generally speaking, smartly chosen. The only thing that gets me is those overtures. Aside from not using the Beecham, if you, and there was more Beecham than just the Corsair. I mean, he did the Fantastique, but Martinon's much better. But he did other, shorter Berlioz pieces. And the thing is, I wonder if they even remembered that Beecham existed. It's interesting that EMI seems not to have a very helpful or useful selection of Berlioz overtures in their catalog. But if they could license, some major works like the Mrs. Solennel from Phillips, Decca, then why couldn't they just get themselves a good album of Berlioz overtures? I mean, there's that very nice Colin Davis Staatskapelle Dresden one that was on RCA. Who knows where that is now? I mean, they could have figured it out. They could have done it, but, that's the way it goes. All of these sets, we all can think of, versions we prefer better. But on the whole, and especially in the major works, they have chosen very, very well. So the Warner Berlioz edition is a winner. It really is. And since it's the only complete Berlioz edition out there, and I'm not even going to get into how complete is complete, we don't have a lot of choice, do we? I would get this. I would get this while I can if you don't have it. I mean, not only for itself, for the wonderful performances it contains, but because, I doubt we're going to see anything like it. And I don't know how long these things are going to last. I really don't. So that's the advice from your handy-dandy home critic. If you like Berlioz, get this. Get it soon. Keep on listening, folks. Thank you. Take care.